Welcome back. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and we have as our guest today Representative Mike Chippendale. And Mike served twice on the Oversight Committee that was studying 38 Studios, or at least attempting to investigate it, and found it really difficult. You were really kind of cut off at all.
Absolutely.
Every time you tried. But in our last segment, you said you were talking about some of the abuses, and I know when I go door to door, people are asking me, where did all the money go? Right? Where did it go? Because Kurt Schilling didn't get all of it.
No.
Where did it go?
Initially, Schilling was told through Corso and Tom Zaccanino, who was his confidant, and Corso was Fox's confidant, and the two of them kind of orchestrated this, told that they would be able to secure $125 million for him, which is what their company estimated they would need to launch the two games successfully.
So even their own company said we need $125 million.
So from what we could tell from the emails, they got the $75 million loan program.
But they didn't get $75 million.
No, they didn't. That was added to the bill that was passed by the General Assembly, totaling $125 million. Now, whether or not that was coincidental and used to try to lure Schilling into Rhode Island, I have no idea. We found nothing to support that, but it's just odd that it's the same exact number. When they got down to brass tacks of getting the bonds put together, they tried private placement bonds. That didn't work. The financials of 38 Studios were just too raw. They were too young. They had no product, no assets.
And video games are notoriously bad investments.
Absolutely. Even with 38 Studios projections on how well they would do, they were estimating they would perform 200% better than the best performing video game of its kind at the time, and which still to this day is, which I don't remember the name of.
Yeah, but they couldn't validate even what their projections were going to be.
So at the end of all of between bond counsel, the investigation of the ratings, the agencies they dealt with, all of the interest and everything else, Schilling was given $49 million, which, when that was learned by 38 Studios, this was before the bonds were underwritten and the money dispersed. They had serious concerns, and the EDC emails that go back and forth absolutely demonstrate that there was a concerted effort among government officials and those at EDC to sort of paint a rosier picture to Schilling and to kind of string them along a little bit on, it's going to be fine, we'll get you the $125 million with film tax credits and this and that and the other thing, all sorts of promises that, as we know now, Corso and Fox did try to execute. But Governor Chafee stopped it at the last moment, either just because he felt like stopping it, or he was on top of things, because it was a little known fact at the time that a non-Rhode Island company cannot receive film tax credits in Rhode Island, and 38 Studios was a Delaware LLC, and so they were not eligible to receive film tax credits from the state of Rhode Island, and on those grounds, I think, the Chafee administration decided not to even let them explore that option. That's when things really got ugly, and for the company when it fell apart in 2012.
Well, that's when it got ugly for taxpayers. Well, it was ugly for taxpayers the whole time.
It was. We just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
It was, still, hey, this baseball star is bringing this really cool high-tech company into our state, and he's going to create a bajillion jobs, and the world's going to be focused on this knowledge district, and that's going to be the anchor. And then next thing we know, 2 years later, they're out of business.
Yeah, and we're left holding the bill.
$100 million bag.
But, so the $25 million, some of it was to pay off the bonds, and then there was this other pot of money that just went into the building infrastructure? Is that
No,
it?
that came out, the infrastructure came out of the $49 million. So there was...
so he really didn't get $49 million for his company. He actually had to spend $12 million of the 49 just to rebuild a building that was perfectly fine.
Right, and part of the underwriting stipulated that there had to be reserve funds able to pay a certain number of payments.
For a couple of years.
Pre-revenue payments. So there was this pot of money that he couldn't touch. That was part of that $25 million. But when they moved in, and he was really looking at a couple of other locations. One of them, I think, was the G-Tech location, the old G-Tech location. However, it appears that Michael Corso really forced their hand on a Providence property, and gave them 3 to choose from, which they really weren't happy with. And this is, again, coming from someone who worked at 38 Studios. But they were really forced into picking one of the 3. They did pick Empire Plaza, One Empire Plaza.
But they didn't really want it. It
they
wasn't
didn't
the
really
best
want it. It did require a lot of work. They didn't know how much at the time. At the time, when they were complete with all of the build-out, they called it, of the building, they were invoiced $12.5 million by the general contractor.
And I understand they replaced a stairwell.
Oh, they replaced a lot of things.
I mean,
sure.
like $1 million bucks, a stairwell.
Yeah,
a stairwell is a stairwell.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not a, it's
No.
not, it's utilitarian. It's
Absolutely.
not supposed to be a grand staircase
No.
that people go up and down.
No, and you know.
I've never heard of replacing one.
No, there was a lot of overspending on that job, and you can tell just by looking
Well,
at
when
the
you're
invoices.
making 20% on every dollar,
You
sure.
have an incentive to sell it up, I would agree. And that's really, I think, the biggest driver in why this whole thing fell apart was just they were
Too many hands in the pot.
too many hands in the pot too early. They thought this was going to be a great, successful company that they'd be able to milk forever. It didn't work out that way because one individual was milking
Because you
faster
gotta
than
make,
anyone else.
well, you gotta make sure that the company is successful.
Absolutely.
You know, you gotta
Absolutely.
feed the cow before you can get any milk out of it.
You absolutely do.
Right. So in addition to the build out of the building, there were a lot of lawyer fees.
Absolutely, yeah, and
Underwriting
the bond
fees.
counsel fees, which is legal fees,
And insurance fees.
underwriting fees, yeah, insurance fees. They paid $560,000 for an insurance policy on the bond itself. There was a lot of money that went towards, I guess, what you would call administrative fees, if you were
So
in a
that came
mortgage.
out of his 49 million.
Came out, well, no, those came out of the total, all the stuff we just spoke about, but out of the 49 million came the build out of the building, the hiring of the people, all that. So by the time they got done with all of that, they had very little capital to work with and were scrambling. That's when Michael Corso really started to kick into high gear. That's when he inked his 4th contract, I believe it was, with them to secure tax credits, of which I believe, I'm going from memory right now because I have read a lot of documents, I believe of those tax credits, Corso personally received 37 cents of every dollar that per the contract. That contract was never realized because the tax credits never happened. However, he stood to make a good chunk of money off of simply being there.
And who is Michael Corso?
Michael Corso is a good
How did
friend.
he get insinuated into this process?
Sure,
Because there should never have been a middleman. We don't need a middleman.
We did not need a middleman at all. He facilitated all the meetings with Schilling's people and Schilling and Fox and everyone else. He held everyone's hand through the process, the builders, every contractor, who got used, who didn't get used. At one point, someone in
He
EDC,
controlled the contractors. He controlled everything.
He controlled everything. At one point, there was an email that we received in the APRA request that a member of EDC, a higher ranking member of EDC, demanded to everyone in a very large email chain that went in and out of state government that please remember to CC Michael Corso on all correspondence regarding 38 Studios. Why is a quasi-government agency dictating to Rosemary Booth Galogli and all of these other people in government that they have to CC a private lawyer who happens to be really good friends with the then Speaker of the House? Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense that he was never subpoenaed either.
It doesn't. We subpoenaed him in oversight and he never responded, of course.
Untouchable.
Untouchable. No one even knows where he is, that I'm aware of.
Oh, they know where he is.
Well, certain
They're just-
people may.
Yeah.
Yes, one of them's in federal prison.
Tend not to be too cynical, but it's hard in this case.
It is.
At any rate, we're going to stop right there, and we'll be right back.